Awesome, so this is our Ampco pump. You find a lot on the HLTs. If it does start to leak, there is one fix that you can do if you decide that you need to go assemble. You've already checked your other gaskets and everything is set right. That's the culprit. It's typically this O-ring here. So essentially what we do is if you already have the parts apart, you can take this O-ring and place it in, set your impeller like so, and then I like to put the 4-inch TC on first so that everything is set. So the key is here is that you can see there's a lot of wiggle room of where this is set, right? So the goal is you want to make sure that this is set nice and low, but you still is going to give it enough of freedom to move freely. So once you have that set, you can move this up, taking your Allen key nice and tight. And now the seal is reset. We still have easy free movement. Of course, after that, put on your guard for safety. But any troubleshooting, any leaking, that is 99% of the time your culprit right there. Right, so this keg washer we also do is a double wing nut that you find on commonly on the keg washers. And we want to go over if you've taken the keg washer head apart. These are all the parts that come with it, and we're going to go step by step on how to rebuild this keg washer head. So as you see here, there's a couple gaskets you need to make sure that are on there. This piece, you need to make sure that this gasket is in there and seated well. Another thing is you can see that this gasket is in here. If this gets, after use or anything gets worn down or kind of moves out of place, that can be a common source of leaking as well. And then the biggest place that commonly causes leaking is this piece, but we'll get to that part. So essentially first what we want to do is make sure we have all our parts here. We are going to seat this piece onto the spring. We're also going to double check that this part has this key, and that's going to line up with that hole on the spring. So that part's all going to go together. Right, so we're going to put it in here. Make sure that when this presses, this is what's going to be the mechanical seal. This is going to press onto it. That gasket's nice and tight. We want to make sure that gets seated in there, and the tighter we compress this, the better the seal's going to be, and we'll get to that in a moment. So essentially what we're going to do here, we're going to take ring, you can place it in here. We have our driving shaft here. A little bit of mechanical love. Perfect. We have our plate. You're going to place this on top. You have your here, it's going inside. Oop. So inside this little hole. So then we're going to take the impeller, this up top. We're trying to push this up. You can also use a screwdriver, kind of get a little bit of a mechanical advantage in there too. There. So we can push down. As you see now we get way better sight into that. Take a small screwdriver, feed it through, and that's going to lock in place. So now we have that set. So this is the part that's important. We have our screwdriver in here. It's in a good spot. We have good compression on it. I particularly like to line up these two slots. I just get better compression on it and it stays nice and tight. The goal is for here, once they get in this position, we're going to locate our Allen key here, and we're going to drill this. So the key is that you really do want this to be as compressed and this as high as you can. The more compression you have on your spring, the better that this seal in the housing is going to be, which is where a lot of over time, a lot of wear and tear, that's where your leaking is going to be. Once you have it all set up, it can be as simple as unscrewing this part, then recompressing it as we have here, and resetting that Allen key. That's going to be a lot of the major troubleshooting to begin with. But today we're just going to see all the way from the beginning how to put these together. So we can make this easy on ourselves by moving this out of the way. Get a good lift. Right, pushing up. Locking that in place. Still want to make sure that we have good free movement here. We're also, if you do it well, it won't slide up and down. A lot of times if you don't line up these two slots right here, you can get it to compress the bottom bolt, but it's not pressing it tight enough where this whole system will still kind of slide up. So right now this is good. We have good free movement. It's not going up and down. And then we're going to place the housing on there. So have the housing, make sure everything is the right side up. We're going to give it a little bit of love here. You can do a couple taps. It's also good grade steel if you want to. You can do it the way around. Another thing that you can do is you can take the wing nuts. Once you get enough that you can thread, you can start winging them on. Get it where it's nice and tight. You can start using a big screwdriver, give yourself a little bit of extra torque on both sides. Right, and then using that and your hammer, you can make sure this is seated. Our goal is to have it where it's completely sealed. As you can see, if we rotate this pump around, we still have a little bit popping up here. So save a little bit of time. We'll do that later, but you want to make sure that this have a nice good seal. The wing nuts are nice and tight, and then you have your guard that you can place on here as well. If you're a little picky, you want to make sure that once you get this all wired up and it's when the rotation you want, there is an arrow on here. Make sure that that arrow is going the way that you want the impeller. As you see right now, we have the impeller spinning this way, which is then forcing the water up on out, and that's the way we want it. So we'll go ahead and take our screw and attach that on there, which we can always do later, but that would be the final piece.